Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hi, welcome to Brothers in Tech.
Oh, Alan, you don't look to be in a very good mood right now, and it's funny, you look a little different than you normally do. Like your perspective that we're having with you right now on your camera.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
It has been it's been a rough day, but it just got capped off in the last hour here. So I'm embarrassed to say, co-host of Brothers in Tech, an ongoing, highly regarded tech podcast in the podcast community.
Well, at least by us. Yeah, we regard it highly.
I'm one of the co-hosts doing this from my iPad. Can't even get my microphone to work with my iPad because my computer got water spilled on it. I have no idea where from, but as of like 45 minutes ago, my computer is now having to be disassembled and is drying out on the other side of the room. But my commitment to the show, Brian, is unwavering. So I'm here under subpar conditions for me recording this. But yeah, I'm not in a good headspace right now.
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry that makes me cringe to think that your new computer has water in it.
You're like 3 months old.
Yep. It makes me very confused to know that you can't figure out where the water came from.
No.
And quite honestly, I'm wondering whether your iPad is going to be drenched in bourbon, after the end of the night with the way things are going from you. Because I'm sure you have a drink right now, or if you do not, you ought to take a quick. Okay. Oh man, I'm sorry. That sucks. So just for the listener to maybe keep your education mind on you as you teach the rest of us. What are you doing right now to try to remedy this situation?
Yeah, that's good. Let's make a positive out of the negative here. This is a teaching moment.
Yes.
So the rules are, if your gear, especially a laptop. Now I'm sure the same thing's going to apply for like a tablet of different sorts, but I'm talking specifically about laptops. Most modern laptops are try their hardest to be water resistant, but there are ports and places where water can seep in. And the first thing you're supposed to do is, if you detect there's water on your laptop and it may have gotten into your internal innards, you need to unplug all connections, all peripherals, everything from it. Power, everything. Just get it completely disconnected. You're not supposed to try to turn it on. So that was probably problem number one for me, because I thought the water, I have an external case, like a clamshell case on my laptop.
Yep.
And it had some moisture on the outside. So I thought, okay, well, it's just something happened. I don't know where water came from. Water's in my bag. I don't know why. Wipe it down. I thought I was fine. So I opened up my laptop, plugged it up, powered it up. And my external screen shows up, but my laptop screen does not.
Okay. So your port's working, but your monitor is not. Right? Kind of. At least
they were.
Okay.
So once I realized I have a problem, I immediately powered everything down and unplugged everything. And, yes, you're supposed to open up your laptop, get to the inside, because the biggest thing you want to do is you can dry out water from most of the internal parts of the laptop and it'll be fine. But if water gets into the logic board, that's where problems happen. That's where money has to be spent and fixes come in. So the whole goal is to not let any more water get deeper into your computer. So finding a position where you can basically prop your laptop up to where water is going to flow out through whatever holes it might have seeped into and not
Yeah.
get to your logic board, which is underneath your keyboard primarily.
Hmm.
That's what you want to try to do.
So you have it upside down so that like keyboard is down and the back side of it is up, sort of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then the idea is to dry it out. So I was able to open up the back of the laptop, and I'd be happy to show you photos that I took of the inside of the laptop because it is pretty cool looking. But unfortunately, my iPad will not let me share photos or screens on this live stream. So I am somewhat restricted. But just trust me, I got the inside open. I was dabbing up water where I found some drops kind of in different spots, but it didn't look like anything had hit the logic board. Just trying to dab it up, and now I've got it open and exposed across the room. You might even hear the fan in the background running to dry it off. So
when you say you opened it up via the keyboard?
Yeah.
You take the keyboard out?
On the MacBook Pro, the newer ones, you open up the back underside panel.
Oh, okay.
And that shows you the entire innards of the computer. So that's kind of the direction you go with it.
Okay.
And once it's open, I see everything. I see the batteries, I see logic board, I see all that. And I found some drops on a couple spots and dabbed those up and now drying off the rest. So that's my hope. My hope is I called it in time, but we will see.
And one more quick confirmation though. So let's say that I'm someone who keeps my laptop on. I just close it and I keep it on and put it in my bag. I don't turn it off. But if I were to open it and realize that there was water that happened to have gotten in there, to turn it off, I'm assuming you use the power button and just pressed and held until it shut down, right? So at least power is not running through the system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That's absolutely. Yeah. Actually, as you're disconnecting peripherals and connections and cords, you power down the laptop, get it powered off because you don't want anything running inside the laptop if there's possibility of water inside. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it did say it could take 24 hours for it to dry out completely, and I'm sure there's safeguards on the Mac where if it thinks there's water inside, it's not going to let you do things.
Right.
So I kind of hope that's where it is. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, honestly, the listeners should realize the links that Alan goes to educate all of us, right? I mean, the things he'll do to, he'll sacrifice his own computer just to be able to teach us how not to have that happen to us, right? Thank you, good sir.
I'm trying really hard to not be detective and try to figure out what family member in my household might have accidentally had some water too close to my bag that might have dropped in.
Yeah.
But again, they don't listen to the show, so I can say whatever I want to.
So. First of all, did you make sure it was water?
Yeah, it definitely is water.
Okay.
I checked that out.
Because my bet would have been on that devil cat peeing on your laptop.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
Believe me, that is the absolute first thing I thought of. But it's very clearly water. Very clearly water. I did smell test. Nothing's sticky. No soft drink. No anything. It is pure water. So I don't know.
Well, I do want to say not to stress you out anymore, but your video is starting to freeze a little bit.
Sure.
Actually, it looks like it's back better, but yeah.
I mean,
of course it is.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Actually, I'd be shocked if it's running super smooth right now.
Well,
so Brian, I am somewhat restricted on this show. I had the best episode planned. Oh, I tell you, it was going to be marvelous. I had.
Oh, so you did background research and everything?
Yeah, I did. I got screenshots I was going to pull up about the story we're going to talk about. I had everything ready to go. I got nothing now. So I'm going to count on you to show and guide us on things. I will certainly commentate, but I don't.
Good.
My frame of mind, I'm probably going to be a lot more negative on everything we talk about than I normally would be.
This sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks. I don't like it. All right. Well, given that, I can certainly share screen, so that let me handle that. Let me take that stressor off you. And honestly, if if you get drunker and drunker as the episode goes on, I completely understand. And honestly, I might be looking forward to seeing this happen. So
if you see the camera start to tilt a little bit, if you see my head maybe dipping a little bit in the frame. Just know what's going on. It's okay.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Oh, well, okay.
So Brian,
Let me say again, I'm very sorry, Alan. And, this is,
3 months.
unfortunately, this is exactly what this show is all about, right?
Three
It's
months
about
I've had that thing.
educating.
3 months. All right. Okay. I'm done complaining. I need to get my mind off of it, because if this thing doesn't power up in the next several hours, I'm going to be pretty upset.
Well,
All
let me just first of all say, do you think that the MacBook Pro is cursed? Because you know what happened to my MacBook Pro when I got it within 24 hours of getting it?
right.
I dropped it on the concrete,
Mm.
and both edges are scarred up completely within 24 hours of having it. So I'm wondering if there's a curse, that someone doesn't want
Well,
us to have new laptops.
and also, we just talked about our laptops on the show just this past week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It could be something to that. I don't know.
It's a
I don't know.
jinx. Yeah. Well,
There's also
what?
a good chance this light is going to die out that I'm using right now.
Of course it will. Yeah.
So I'm just letting you know, if I start getting darker, that is why. If it's harder to see my face, probably a good thing. So Brian, let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's
try to get some positive things going here.
Okay.
Well,
let's talk about some things because of the jinx. Let's talk about some things that we don't have. You and I do not have, because these are things that were just announced yesterday, right?
Okay, good. Yes.
We're going to talk about two announcements that Apple made yesterday, and specifically two products. I think there's some other things we could talk about, but I think specifically focus on kind of two of the announcements that happened yesterday: the iPad and the Apple TV updates. Right. Both of those were done somewhat well, compared to Apple's usual announcements. These were done somewhat, let's say, with less pomp and circumstance than normal. Right. There wasn't an actual event. This was a rollout of these things that some people were expecting. I don't think people knew all of these things that were coming, and or at least all the specifics. So we thought we would break down the new iPad, the two iPads that were announced yesterday, as well as the Apple TV update. So, and by Apple TV, we mean the actual streaming box, not the service. Yeah,
we're talking hardware today, not
correct. Yeah. And then maybe what we'll do, depending on how negative you are on these next two items, Alan, maybe we'll finish up with something a little bit more positive at the end with a suggestion or two. Okay.
Maybe, because my suggestion was going to be something I could show you on my laptop.
Well, I think your suggestion is keep liquids away from your computer, but let's, that's okay. Right. Let's move on. All right. So Alan, I'm sharing a screen there. Why don't you pop that up if you can do that?
I can at least do that.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and Alan, just feel free to jump in, because I think, it sounds like you actually did some background work on this. But
I did. I'll be happy to talk through this a little bit, Brian, here.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead and get us started. Go ahead and get us started.
So Apple did release some new iPads yesterday. Two specifically. I'll admit, these announcements now make the iPad lineup that they have the biggest, I think, they've ever had it. There are technically 5 models for sale on Apple's website right now. So the new one they did announce the 10th generation iPad, and that is their entry level. That is the one that you can get for the least amount of money. Starts at $449, $450. Is that right?
Let me actually pull it up. But yes, I believe you're right. It's the 10th generation.
Yep. And the biggest thing that this iPad does, a couple of things, and there's a little, I don't want to say controversy, but there's a little bit of some people shrugging their shoulders a little bit at this announcement, because it's basically almost exactly like the last version, the version 9 that they had. The 9th generation they're still selling on their website. It's now priced at $330, so you can get it about $100 cheaper. It's got a little bigger screen, meaning a smaller bezel. So it uses more of the front face than the 9th generation did. We do have a not Touch ID, Face ID on the iPad, I believe. and it is using an M2 chip, I believe. No, I'm sorry, it's not. The Pro is using the M2 chip.
Right.
The iPad is using. This is still
It's
using
the
the
A14. Yeah, the A14, the middle here, right?
yeah, still
Yeah,
using the A14 Bionic chip, which is not much of a difference from what the ninth generation was using. So you got a
right.
little larger screen. Scroll back down for me, Brian, if you could.
Yep, yep.
Um,
Yeah, so about 11-inch
a little
screen. Yep.
little better back camera. Little better
And there's
processor.
for those watching, by the way, the right two columns, if you can't see that, the right two columns are the 10th generation and the ninth generation iPad. So those are the two we're talking about.
Yeah,
This is the update from the right column to the middle column. So you can see the chips updated. It's a slightly bigger screen, a little better screen,
yeah.
better camera.
But here's a couple of interesting things. It is using USB-C
Yeah.
instead of
Yes.
Lightning. Now I do like that.
I do
The
too. I do
the
too.
the faster we can get away from Lightning connectors, the better. For those not quite clear on it, the Lightning connector is what your traditional iPhone connector is right now. It's what you use to power up your iPhone. It's the connector that's really small, kind of a rectangular slot. It's got some white stripes kind of on the front side of
Yep.
it. It's kind of ubiquitous. It's the one everybody has for their phone. iPad started moving to USB-C with the Pro level, but now we've got it at kind of their at their entry level as well, which is good. So I do like
Yep.
that.
Agreed.
It is still using Touch ID. So my apologies. It's still using Touch ID. It's not using Face ID yet.
Right.
Storage is the same. It works with the same first generation pencil that the ninth generation did. So
Which
you
is
can't
kind of
even use a
annoying.
newer pencil on it. Yeah,
Right.
it is.
Yep.
So a lot of people are kind of shrugging about this because you got a little bigger screen, and even though you got a slightly faster processor, you're not really going to see a lot of difference on this. So it's kind of a very, very, very minor update on the
Yep.
entry level iPad. Um,
Yeah. So I'm
Honestly, for somebody in the market for a new iPad and just wanting to get the basic entry level iPad, I'd still go with the ninth generation because you
yeah.
probably have Lightning connectors all over the place. If you want to save money, it's $120 cheaper.
Yep.
Um, you're not going to lose anything really on power or speed, really. Um, if you're looking to save money and not caring about having the latest and greatest, I mean, the ninth generation is still pretty comparable for what we're seeing there. So,
Yep. Yeah, and there's one adjustment which I do think is a good one. It's
yeah,
not at all a groundbreaking thing. Is the landscape front camera, right? I mean that's a
right.
nice feature, right? So what we're talking about is the camera that kind of provides the landscape orientation, which I think is going to be helpful for is it Stage Manager? Is that the feature that you're gonna be on a FaceTime call and as you move, it's basically got a wider perspective and you can
No,
move? No, that's not it.
it's not Stage Manager. Stage Manager is a whole different thing. We'll probably talk
Oh,
about.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the function, but you're talking about using your
I
phone
will look at that in a minute.
as a
Yep.
using your phone as a webcam, and it gives you greater depth of field. And if it uses that camera, it can be a wide camera. But I think the iPad wide camera does that as well. So I don't know.
Hmm. Well, I know there's a feature now that one of the things they promoted, and we'll get over to it in just a second. It's got the promotional things on the web, but the beauty of it having a wider camera
Mm-hmm.
is the wider camera allows it to. It's basically so if your webcam was ultra wide, then it doesn't necessarily have to show ultra wide to the person that you're talking to. It allows you to move within that ultra wide screen and it kind of trims out and crops out what you're doing. So there is a feature, and I'll have to look in just a minute on what that was called. I thought it was Stage Manager, but I could be wrong. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I know Stage Manager is the new layout interface that
okay.
Macs and iPads are going to be using. So
Okay. All
something
right.
similar to that. I know what you're talking
Yep.
about. So yeah,
Yep. But I'm with you. I mean, that it certainly is not worth $100 more, in my opinion. Even though I love the fact that we're moving to USB-C, I think
yeah,
that's great.
sure.
And sure, getting a little bit larger, but I'm not really sure that's why you would be getting this iPad.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little larger, but it's also. I'd like to know, Alan. Do you know the dimensions of this? Because just here we go. Um, yeah. So if you see, the height is pretty much the same. So what it is, less bezel, right? It takes the screen further out. The width, it is a little wider than the current one, but it's pretty darn similar in terms of height. So this is one of those, you're getting a larger screen for somewhat similar real estate, right, of the iPad. And but I agree with you. I don't think it's worth it right now. I was a little disappointed. If it gave access to the new pencil and it potentially put an M1 chip in there, I would have been saying yes. I would have said that would have been potentially worth that extra cost, right?
Yeah, I agree. And now I will say this: if you're an older iPad and you're looking to upgrade,
Right.
and you don't mind the cost, and you really like the idea of going to USB-C as kind of a new standard, I mean, it'll be a great tablet machine for you. It's just if you have one from the last couple generations, I'm afraid you're not going to see a lot of room for reasons to upgrade right now.
Right.
So it's still, these are great machines. Look, I've got a first generation iPad Pro. So, I mean, these newer iPads probably outperform the older iPad Pro I've got right now. So I'd be happy with them. But somebody looking to, get the best bang for their buck on an iPad, I do think right now the ninth generation is like, it's a pretty good deal. $350 for a really nice iPad that it's going to be a great machine. So I like it. Yeah. So the other iPad they announced, Brian, is the iPad Pro. And you've got it pulled up right over there
on the left.
as well.
Yep.
It's the sixth generation of the iPad Pro. So this was one that has a couple of interesting features, but I still think it suffers from some of the same problem, which is not a ton of upgrades from the last version. So I think they're positioning this for somebody who's in the market to upgrade to a Pro for the first time. And this is a good upgrade from an older non-Pro iPad. But if you're already on an iPad Pro from the last couple of generations, I don't see a real need to upgrade on this.
Let's do this. Let me pull up here the previous iPad Pros just so we have an example. So this is, for those that are able to watch, the left column is the newest, and then the middle column is the fifth generation. The right column is the fourth generation. So these are the previous two generations compared here. So if we start looking down, you'll notice this has an M2 chip in it, which of course is great, right? I mean, that's going to be future proofing a little bit for what they're going to be doing.
Again,
but the last one also had the M1, which was fantastic, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, keep in mind what we talked about with the whole M1 versus M2 at a previous episode is that the upgrade from an M1 to an M2 is not this doubling effect. I mean, it is a incremental upgrade chip wise. So you'll see a little performance improvement, but I don't think you're going to be just blown away by, if you're on an M1 now going to an M2, I don't think you're just going to be bowled over by the performance. So
right. Yeah, I think it looks like cameras fairly similar.
Cameras the same.
The fourth generation had some the true depth camera was not quite as good on that, but still you've got USB-C, across the board on these. 5G for those that are actually getting cell service, which I think is good. I mean, again, that's the, hopefully that becomes the deliverable that everybody believes it should be. Storage a little bit different, but ability to be able to work with the pencil, right? The second gen pencil.
Well, sure, I would expect that would be obvious.
But that's also the case with the previous generations, right?
Nothing spec wise has changed outside of it being an M2 chip instead of an M1. I don't think anything's changed.
I don't think so either. Although this kind of surprised me pulling up the spec sheets here, because I had thought some of this had.
Well, there's a feature that is going to be on the new iPad Pro. It's not listed on that spec list, but it's the one thing they're touting. And this is what you can use with the new iPad. It's the Apple Pencil hover mode.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me get to that here.
Yeah. Not listed on the specs, but the idea of this is if you have an Apple Pencil and you've used that with an iPad or iPad Pro before, that right now, when your pencil actually touches the screen of the iPad is where it makes the mark. Or if you're drawing, if you're
Yeah.
doing annotating. The idea with the Apple Pencil Hover is that you have about, I think they said 12 millimeters. Is that what I remember seeing?
Yeah. Let's see.
12 millimeters
12 millimeters. Yes.
above the screen that your pencil can hover. And it's going to show you, Brian, if you can scroll down a little bit more, it might
Yep.
show it on that next
Yep.
image. Yeah.
Yep.
It'll actually show you on the screen like a preview of where your mark's going to be before you actually make it. Now,
Yeah.
that may sound pretty trivial, but for anybody who's ever used this for drawing or sketching things, pretty much once you put your pencil down, I mean, that's it. That's where the
Something's
mark's
happening.
going.
Yep.
And if you don't like it, you have to go and undo it or go backwards on your steps. This does give you a nice preview. So I saw the way it worked. You hover your pencil right above the screen, and it kind of creates a little, almost like a little ghosting image, kind of show you, hey, this is where your mark's going to go. It doesn't show you a permanent spot. Yeah, there you go. You see, if you're watching the screen, you can see that just hovering over it creates like a little circle to say, hey, this is where your mark's going to go once you finish putting your pencil on the screen.
Yep. Yep.
For anybody doing anything detailed on an iPad, or iPad Pro, this is great. Is it enough of a reason to get the new iPad Pro? I'd say maybe if you're an artist and you use this for, this is a big tool for your artwork, I think there's probably some benefit to upgrading to it. Again, but it's pretty much I mean, there are some other like high level tech upgrades inside for people who are doing high end video work or some other high level processing. There's some nice tweaks on the insides, but for the general user on an iPad Pro, slightly better performance with an M2 chip, and you've got the hover function, and that's basically it.
Right. No, I think you're right. I think the hover mode is nice. It is. I agree with you. It's not going to be something someone's seeking out as being that's the distinguishing factor. But I do think the beauty of them doing this is that this is actually going to I think this is going to convince the people who do go to this that maybe they're not going it for the hover mode itself, but when they get on an iPad that has hover mode on it, I think they're going to find that drawing and writing on it are going to be much more enjoyable. I think this is one of the problems you mentioned before, that if I were to go and start taking notes on an iPad and start using it more day to day or start drawing, there is that frustration of, okay, I didn't mean to touch there. Let me go back. And then next thing you know, you have this pull back to, pencil and paper or wanting to type it out. So I think this is hopefully going to solve a little bit of that and maybe get some more converts to use the iPad in more creative ways. But you're right. It's not something that I, would force me to, one of our faithful audience members here, Shane, mentioned that he had a fourth generation and that, hover mode is not enough for him to want to upgrade, which I wouldn't either. Just looking at the specs, that's not a big driver for me. Now, I do think that there is going to be some things, and I don't know at what point this will happen, but there'll be some features that'll come out with iOS updates where it'll finally say, those with an M2 can do this. Those with an M2 can do this feature, or those with, the M1 or M2 can do this, which is where you might start to see some limitations of maybe a fourth gen. But other than that, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it right now. So these I felt were really incremental things that make sense, right? They didn't do a big announcement. They didn't do a big presentation as they normally would do. And I think this was to make sure they're getting their M2 chips a little bit more action and kind of putting them in there so that it opens up opportunities for future features. But
while we're on the iPads, and that's pretty much, I mean, going back to the whole lineup, I mean, now you've got the iPad Pro, which I don't even think they're selling the last generation iPad Pro anymore. I think even when you had it pulled up a second ago, Brian, there were no buy options.
Yeah, they did not. They were not selling it. That's right. Yeah. So now you can see at the very top here. Yep.
You've got the latest iPad Pro.
Yep.
You've got the iPad Air, which that's another issue I didn't even mention with the entry-level iPad, is that it's almost identical to the iPad Air as well, specs-wise and feature-wise. So there's a lot of difficult distinction between the iPad Air, the 10th generation iPad, and the 9th generation iPad. But yet they've got all four of those in the line, plus they've got the iPad Mini, which they didn't make any updates to that. Mini is still, if you want a small size iPad, that's still the one to go to. But it's five models in their lineup right now, which is kind of crazy, I think.
So take a look here at the left is the iPad Air, Alan. The middle is the 10th generation iPad.
Oh yeah,
that they just
yeah.
Right. So your Air is an M1 chip. Your 10th gen that just came out is the A14 Bionic chip still.
And the M1 chip is better. Just go ahead and lay that out there. The M1 chip is obviously the better option there. But everything else is looking similar. The Air will work with second generation Apple Pencil instead of the new entry level iPad. And I mean, it is costing more. I mean, you can get $599 is the cost for the 64 gigabyte version. So it's $150 more than the entry level iPad. So you've got options. If you're looking for an entry level iPad and cost is a factor, you want to keep it cheap, I'd go with the 9th generation. If cost isn't a factor and you just want to future proof and be kind of with the latest and greatest, the 10th generation will be fine. I think you're maybe overpaying for not a lot of new features, but
right.
And then if you really want the kind of the really upscale model that is using a faster chip, has a few more features to it, and you pay about $150 more, the iPad Air is kind of where to go. So
and basically the iPad Air to the iPad Pro is what we're talking a difference of $500, right?
Yeah.
So it's $500 more to jump from there. I do think this is, we talked about it before with the MacBooks. They're running into some problems with branding and naming of these things, right? For people to understand. I mean, when I look at something and see an Air, I think trimmed down, simple entry, right? Because that's the way I've always approached maybe a MacBook Air. And now it's looking like that's not the case at all. That's maybe a lighter version of the Pro, or taking a step toward the Pro, but not far enough. And I don't know. I think they have some issues there. They really do.
I agree.
And
I agree.
And I cannot figure out why they put out a 10th generation that does not have an M1 chip at least. I can't. That baffles me unless they have a bunch of chips they want to get rid of.
I'm
put them in
before an hour and a half ago, where I'm now having to use my iPad as my only computing device, my iPad Pro. I have half a mind to say, look, I may actually get rid of the iPad Pro and go with a newer entry level iPad, because what I realize I use my iPad for, I just don't work on it. I really use it for consumption. I watch things on it. I read things on it, and I take notes on it. So I was really thinking, maybe if they released an iPad 10th generation that worked with the latest Apple Pencil, had an M1 chip in it, I'm like, that's probably where I would go and get that and just use it for note taking and reading and watching movies. That's all I need. But now I'm just like, nah, I don't really feel like I should buy that quite yet. I still feel like I would lean more toward the iPad Air, but I don't want to put that much more money into it. So.
Right.
Anyway, that's
so I think I don't know. Our takeaway so far is that maybe a little disappointing, underwhelming, and confusing. A little confusing.
I'm glad they didn't schedule. I'm glad they didn't schedule a big event around this and made press come out there to California to report on this, because it would have been very, very deflating. So
I agree. I think that would have been problematic. So,
but let's talk about an upgrade that I'm actually a little more interested in, and that would be the Apple TV 4K. Is that what you're going to have pulled up, Brian, for us?
That is it. Yep.
Awesome. It's almost like I read your mind. I knew exactly where you were going. Yeah.
Well, I got to pick up the slack today, so here we go.
That's right. So the the Apple TV 4K. This is the third generation of the 4K version.
Of the 4K, I think you're right.
Yeah. Yep. They had previous Apple TVs that were not 4K capable for many years. Then they released the Apple TV 4K. Now this is the third iteration of that. The big thing about this, couple really interesting things. First off, I'm just going to go ahead and call it out there. The price. Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting down to $129 for a starting unit. Now that is a 64 gigabyte version. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, because I do have some thoughts on the whole space on your storage on your Apple TV. but it is $129. You can now get it now. I think $199 is where the units were before, I believe.
Well, I think yeah, I think they were saying that it's maybe a $20 or $40 drop from where it
Okay.
had gotten to. So
So maybe it
the
got down to
thing is, this was an
169.
announcement and an increase in performance, but a decrease in price, which
Yeah.
rarely ever happens.
Well, which also means they want to sell more Apple TVs.
Yes,
So
yes.
I like the fact that I hear it's, when I read, it's lighter. It's a little bit thinner, which is kind of nice to know. It is using some better specs, better performance. Now, here's a very important distinction about these Apple TVs. They have two models. Okay.
Yes.
You have the 64 gigabyte version and you have the 256 gigabyte version. There's a price difference between the two, but there's also some, it's not just storage that they change up, it's some capabilities as well. The lower cost option, the 64 gigabyte version, does not have an Ethernet port. That may not be a big issue for a lot of people. If you are completely a wireless network at your house, your Apple TV will run fine off of a wireless network. But if you're somebody like me, who I like to have it plugged in and I've got Ethernet running to my Apple TV, I like having an Ethernet port. The Ethernet port only comes with the 256 gigabyte version. The other thing you lose is there was one other thing you lose.
It's the networking
support for Thread.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, you and I have not really talked a lot about Thread.
We have not. No.
I think we mentioned it in passing in one like home automation episode months ago. It's a new standard that's going to be rolled out where you've actually got multiple manufacturers, including Apple, and I think Google and some others too, all kind of working together on a more common architecture for home automation. If devices work with Thread, that's the name of this alliance, there's going to supposedly be greater compatibility between units. Hopefully to the point where Apple devices, if I want to add devices to HomeKit, as long as they're Thread compatible, they'll work. That's kind of my hope. I'm crossing my fingers for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are kind of future-proofing a little bit your Apple TV if you get the higher storage model, because it is capable of using that Thread networking support, where the 64 gigabyte version is not. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's an internal networking thing, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it before about I think Matter was the other thing that we had talked about.
Oh, right. Yeah, Matter.
So yeah, so Matter and Thread, I think, are similar in that Thread allows Matter to work, or Matter allows Thread to work. I'm trying to remember which one it is, but the idea is that eventually the Alexas, the Google, the HomeKit, all of these devices that get on this standard, their new devices will start to be able to communicate, or at least have the opportunity to communicate, which they don't now. And I mean, this was quite honestly the two differentiating features made me think that I absolutely would still get myself. I'd get the more advanced model.
Yeah.
One, I'm with you. I have an Ethernet connection to both of the TVs where I have Apple TVs because I just don't want any issues with streaming.
Yep.
And even though I have those Ethernet cables are connected to Wi-Fi bases, so technically they're not actually, it's not over Ethernet straight into my, straight from the hub. It's coming from a base, which means I'm helping one of my connections, right?
Yes.
That to the hub. The hub is wireless to the main, so I have kind of a mesh system.
Yeah, I have two places in my house where I run hardline Ethernet straight to my router, straight to my actual internet router, just to get the best performance. One comes to my desk right here. I'll plug my laptop in for that, and the other goes to the Apple TV. So that's kind of where I am with that for sure.
Yeah.
So I like it. I mean, price went down, features went up. The Siri remote. A couple of things with that. The Siri remote is still the newer version of the remote, which I think is ultimately better than the previous versions.
I assume I don't have it. Do you have it?
I've used it. I don't have one.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for that. Yeah. Is there something else I can help with?
Sorry, she's talking to me.
Hush, Siri. I've used it. It's better than the
Yeah.
previous remotes, which are some of the worst remotes ever
Yeah.
released. It's better. It's still not perfect. It's still not ideal. But it does have a USB-C connection to charge it, which I think is
Yeah.
really nice. So
Yep. That's nice.
again, trying to get to USB-C as much as we can instead of Lightning. Um, Now, with the Apple TV models that are being released, there's also going to be a TV OS 16, I
Yep.
believe. And there was a couple things they announced about that operating system that are kind of going to be rolled out when these new Apple TVs come out. Now, you can still upgrade an existing Apple TV to TV OS 16, but there's a couple features that I think will probably play a little bit better on the newer Apple TV boxes if you were to get one. Are you getting to it?
Sorry, I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling, seeing if I can
That's
get.
fine.
I know it had something to do with the
Yeah.
somewhere on here.
Well, I can mention a little bit
Yeah.
about what I've read about tvOS. And again, this was just announced yesterday and nobody's actually played with it. So, although I think I've heard some developer versions have gotten it early and kind of gotten to play with it a little bit. The big thing that they've talked about with the new operating system on these new Apple TVs and some older ones they'll still support is the interface is finally getting a little bit of an upgrade. We have not had an interface upgrade on the Apple TV, I don't think, almost since it started. I mean, other than they've added apps and they've added
Right. Right.
other things, but as far as interface goes, there's really not been any change.
No. Yeah.
Um,
A couple of features here and there, but yeah, the
yeah.
standard is the same.
So the new Apple TV operating system is going to do a few things. One, it's going to make icons and things either a little bit smaller and maybe a little tighter space so you can actually see more things on the screen at one time. And what I think is great, though, is it's going to use a kind of bottom right highlighted area, kind of almost like a little pop-up side to when you're searching for something, it was going to show you some search results down in that bottom corner. It was like a pop-up. And then any alerts will also come up to kind of in that
That's
bottom
nice.
corner. Siri will pop up in that bottom corner. You can do a lot more while you're still navigating the interface and having this little search function and other pop-up notifications down in that bottom corner, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So it's cleaning up the interface a little bit, tightening up a little bit, and giving you that kind of home screen capability with that notifications and pop-up window in the bottom right corner. Yeah, so they don't really show that anywhere, do they?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it here.
So, I mean, if somebody else were pulling up screens and searching for this, we'd probably have
no problems at all. Yeah, probably have no
so.
problems.
Yeah. The other thing about tvOS 16, which I think is a huge deal, Brian, and it's kind of embarrassing this has not happened already. Right now, if I want to use SIRI, the girl that was just talking on your camera a second ago, if I want to use that individual in my house, I have a HomePod where I can talk to it. I've got my phone that I can talk to. I've got a Mac I can talk to. But on the Apple TV, I have to press and hold a button on the remote to talk to this person, SIRI. And now with the new tvOS, if you're wearing AirPods, you can actually say, hey, SIRI in your Apple TV. If you are watching your Apple TV, it will respond and you can talk to it that way. May sound, again, like a minor point, but I'll tell you, it's so annoying to get so used to speaking to devices around me. And then when I'm on my TV, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to find, first off, on the remote, it's hard to find the Siri button. I got to like fumble for it and all that. When I finally do find it, I have to press and hold it down to talk. And it seems really, it seems out of place with every other device I've got around me right now. So I love the fact that that's at least going to let the AirPods have that interaction with it.
Yeah, but there is no voice recognition on the box itself, correct?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think you can speak to it, but
they said that you can actually have up to 6 voices in your family now. It's going to recognize different voices.
Okay, but I wonder if that's voices through the remote.
You know, I'd know if I had a laptop to look it up on.
Yeah. So, Shane's asking a question of, is that only with the earbuds? I know with the earbuds, there's no pressing necessary, right? It's
Yeah.
just like if you're wearing them now, if you're wearing AirPods now, and you have that feature turned on, you can just speak, hey S word, and you don't have to press anything, and it'll start to respond to you.
Yeah.
Um, I think the idea is still that you'd have to speak to the remote, probably not to the box, but the remote itself, and then that has a button. I don't know if there's going to be a feature where you can just say, "Hey, always be listening." Although I'm not really sure I would want that going with a remote, given where the remotes get stuck in the where the microphone is, get stuck in your couch and everything. But I still think that's going to be a little bit of a concern. Alan, you mentioned the idea of headphones. And I did, and I don't know if this is happening now. I haven't checked it, but I was interested. I saw that you can now have two sets of headphones be powered by or not powered, or information be sent to two sets of headphones. So two different people could be wearing headphones
Oh,
and
that's
have
nice.
the sound coming,
Oh,
which I
that's
think is
great.
really nice.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little selfish, but one thing I would love to see happen is the ability to have it play from the TV, but then also play through headphones for someone. For example, a
Hmm.
family member of ours who has some hearing impairment,
Hmm.
who might want it a lot louder than everyone else in the room. If they could have the ability to have headphones in and having um, a louder output going in the headphones than the TV or something like that, seems like that would be a really cool move, especially now that they've got they're starting to use Apple AirPods as hearing aids, right? They finally got that
Hmm.
to where you can buy hearing aids over the counter, and so that's allowing AirPods to actually promote themselves as a hearing assistance, which I think is great. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that I'm hoping will be the case. I know you can do that now with a phone. You can kind of send out the sound to two different sets of headphones at once. That's really cool, and you can do it, and you'll be able to do it with the Apple TV as well. So I think that's a big step. I think that's also something pretty creative for maybe a couple that watches TV together, but they have completely different hearing needs. To have the both wear headphones while you watch, and then everybody has the experience that they really want.
Yeah.
So that's at least a cool option. So
So, yeah, no, I agree. I think that's great. I didn't even mention, I mean, it is an upgraded chip. The Apple TVs are not on an
yeah,
M1 or M2, and honestly, they don't really need to be. I mean, these are not processing devices where you're interacting with it tremendously and having it run powerful calculations. These are all about playing content for you.
yeah,
And the A15 Bionic chip it comes with is fine. I mean,
it does well.
there's
Yeah,
really no reason for an M1 or M2 yet. I mean, eventually I know they'll put one in there, but
sure.
I would not shy away from this device just because it did not have an M1 on it. 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is a upgrade from the last model, which was 3. Um, Before your maximum was 64 gigabytes of RAM of storage. Now it's up to 128 gigabytes of storage. Now,
Hmm.
here's the thing about storage. Um, Most of your content nowadays is streaming. And yes, streaming, it kind of when you start watching a streaming video, it is caching it kind of on your local device, like in memory on that RAM, which is right. Having a lot of RAM is good. But as far as the space it takes up, really the space these days is for games. Okay. Games are the
Yeah,
big downloads. Maybe
yeah,
some apps, some other third party apps, but really games is why people would have a much bigger drive on this. So even though I'm more likely to go with the 128 for a future upgrade, just because I like the Ethernet on it, um, if that's not important to you and you do most of your work on an Apple TV is just streaming, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, whatever it may be, you don't need more storage. I don't feel like. I mean,
right,
I
right.
think even me, I've got a couple of games on my Apple TV. I played once in a blue moon. I don't think I've got a 64 gigabyte. I don't think I use half the storage on it
Yeah,
regularly.
yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
But if you're a gamer and
yeah.
you want to play a lot of games do take up a lot of storage and they have to be downloaded and stored on your device. They can't just be streamed. So you gotta budget for that.
Well, this is when Apple gets me every time. They get me right. They got me with the iPad. I'm sorry. They got me with the MacBook Pro where just because I wanted an HDMI port, I had to jump up to this other thing. Well, just because I want an Ethernet port, I'm going to have to jump up to the 28 gigabyte, right? Because I don't need it at all. And I don't play any games on my Apple TV. I don't really have any plans to play any games on the Apple TV. And although I like having at least some storage in there so that streaming goes a little bit more effectively, it's not needed. And honestly, the whole thread networking thing is not something right now that I need, because my network is not going to be in that. But future proofing,
Well,
I would love to see that get used in the future as being your hub.
and it's hard to say too, like where exactly that thread technology is going to go. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what advantages it's going to provide quite yet. We don't know how many other vendors are going to come on board with it. So you could say it's future proofing to get it, but you're also kind of rolling the dice a little bit on, is it going to be important for us in the future? I don't know. So I think the Ethernet port's the big deciding factor. And if you don't need
what was the price difference?
$50.
Let's see. $20.
Oh.
So yeah, I would be going with it, right? $20. I'd be going for the Ethernet just myself.
Maybe there's really not much of a reason to not get the larger capacity one. So
right.
Yeah. If it was $40-$50, I'd say get the lower one if you don't need Ethernet. At $20, well, it's kind of hard to say not get the upper version. So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's Apple TV. I'm a little more excited about the Apple TVs just because I like prices to go down and I like features or capabilities to go up. And that did both of those. So it was good. The last thing I think, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Alan, I know we don't like talking about rumors too much on here, but hearing the rumor that, Apple at least is working on some level of a screen hub for the house, like a home screen, very similar to what a Google Home screen might be, an Alexa screen that we have in our house that kind of becomes the hub for lights and all of these things, like an iPad version of that, maybe mounting to the wall. Then I start thinking, okay, now I do want to be starting to look at HomeKit and, getting some things that might actually start working together. I'm hoping that this Matter and Thread kind of progression is going to allow more of the devices to work together and more options. But, I'm getting much more tempted now to maybe switch over to start to come your way. Certainly the ability of having, my TV screen actually provide notifications of, someone just walked in front of your house or someone is at your door, those sorts of things, which there's a real benefit for that. So we'll see. Well, and of course the price point is helpful to get in on this now.
Look, last thing I forgot to mention, for anybody who's a real kind of video geek out there, loves the specs on the video playback on your TV or projector or anything, this Apple TV Plus, the new one, will support HDR10 Plus, which is another content. And granted, it's only going to depend on what apps support it. YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus, all those have to support it. And your device, like your TV or projector, has to support it. But if they do, this Apple TV Plus will allow that content to be shown in that full, really, really a great high definition range with a higher support level on it. So it's going to look really good if you've got the right screen and the right app that supports it. So it's another reason to consider an upgrade if you're really looking to get the highest quality video content you can get on a really nice screen you've got. This is the way to go. So,
and Alan, actually, most importantly, it does support JPEG. So
it does.
Yeah. This is the time to upgrade, right? We've got something that can support a JPEG. So,
but surely it doesn't support GIF. I mean, come on.
No. Oh, no. What? Look at the screen, Alan. Yeah.
Hold on. This iPad is so freaking small. I can't see anything on it. Hold on. Oh my gosh, it supports GIF as well.
Oh, Alan, there you go. Make it for you.
Oh, thank you.
Right there.
Appreciate
there you
that.
go. Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Good to know.
Okay. Well, so I think I'm with you. I'm much more likely to get a newer Apple TV. Something that might allow some of these features to come about. I don't necessarily need a new one. I've got a 4K that's on a 4K screen, which is great. I haven't noticed any issues, but the ability to potentially start to move towards the interconnectivity of the house features, I think, is going to be
Yep.
potentially what gets me there. So we'll see.
Agreed.
All
Agreed.
right.
So, Brian, how about let's
Okay.
wrap up all the news stuff? And
Yeah.
before we finish up tonight, I think it's just kind of fun because we had such a good time a couple weeks ago sharing some of our efficiency tips and kind of ways to be more productive on a computing platform. And Brian's smirking. So either my video's freezing up or I'm lagging behind or something. I don't know.
No. I'm just wondering if this efficiency is going to have anything to do with water. I'm
Yeah.
really
So
wondering.
my tip is don't get water near your device. Any device. Actually, I think I'm swearing off liquid now. I think I'm just going to only solid.
I'm not sure solids help your device much either. Just for people that aren't, that are misreading you a little bit here.
Whoop, where did you go?
Oh, hey, sorry.
Hey, there you go.
Sorry. Wrong button.
No, I'm talking like 100% solids, like just bread, cereal, things that have no chance of getting into crevices and holes on a device. Okay.
Gotcha.
But let's talk efficiency. Yeah, one of mine was going to be something on my Mac. I can't do that anymore. So I can talk about an efficiency tip that I still use. And I think, Brian, if you can help me out showing.
Yep, I gotcha.
Okay, great. So mine has to do with a feature that I use more than I ever thought I would, which is the Reminders app on my iPhone or iPad or even on my Mac. It's nice that it's on all three devices now. So if I put in a reminder, it shows up on the other platforms as well. Yep. Anybody who's using a Mac or iPad or phone has seen the Reminders app. You know what it is. You type in a to-do item, and then you can tell it to remind you at a certain time if you want to. I get it. People know how to use the timer on it, and that's really good. The bigger efficiency for me, Brian, is that having those to-do items notify me of what to do based on where I am, like my geographic location. Not enough people are using this feature, and I'll tell you, this is huge. Okay, think about this, Brian. If I go out on Saturday, I've got to run some errands, and I know I need to buy this one thing at the store. Now, I could put it in my to-do list. I could try to guess what time I might be going to the store and say, well, maybe around 3 o'clock, try to remind me at 3 o'clock. I may go to the store at 2:30. I may go a lot later. I don't know. But what if the reminder could actually pop up when I got to the store? Yeah. No matter what time, it pops up. Hey, I see you're at whatever, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, whatever. Whatever location I put in, it pops up and says, hey, remember to get those nails you needed. So the way you do this, very important, when you're in your Reminders app and you create a new reminder, go ahead and just type in buy some nails, Brian. I love this. I'm trying to tell you what to do here. So, buy some nails. Now click the add location button.
Yeah, you're not seeing the pop-up, but it is dropping down a list of options where I can type in.
So it's going to bring you up a pop-up window. Unfortunately, this live stream software doesn't show pop-up windows, but it is a pop-up window where you can actually type in an address, or you can type in the name of a place of business, and it can show you a list of ones that might be a match. You find the one you want, and you click it. And when you do that,
I'm going to show the whole screen so you can see it.
Good. That'd be great, because that was really frustrating, Brian.
Yeah. Okay, so now here we go. As you can see, I'm going to type in location, and there's it provides some options. Right.
So you could type in a physical address, or you could type in a destination that it may know from. It's using its map system, so it knows kind of all the locations out there. I mean, I don't know if there's. What do you guys have on the West Coast? I'm sure it's probably some bizarre brand of hardware store.
Hardware. Oh no, we have Ace.
Okay, let's go with Ace. Type in Ace. See if there's Ace Hardware.
Yep.
You got one?
There we go. Yeah.
So you choose Ace Hardware. Now, I cannot see the screen, Brian, because I'm on this little rinky-dink iPad.
I gotcha.
My eyes really bad. But I know there's an option to be able to say. It basically says if you're arriving. at
Yep.
the store, correct?
Right now it says arriving. Yes.
Okay.
It says
So what it's
arriving.
going to do is it is going to, whatever device is kind of your primary device, which Apple knows, if you're traveling out with your iPhone, it knows your iPhone is kind of what your location is based off of. When you approach that Ace Hardware, that's when it's going to notify you with that reminder. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I think this is huge. I use geographic locations so much more than I do time because I don't always know exactly what time I'm going to be doing something or need to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most of the time, I know that, hey, I'm going to be going to this place. Remind me to do that when I get there. If I get to the office, I can put in one, say, put in my work. When I get to work, remind me of these three things. So I see it right as I pull in the parking lot. It knows kind of geofencing around my office where when I pull into it, and it pops up and it's an actual notification on my screen. So that is to me a big efficiency saver using geographic location for your reminders.
Yep.
Don't base it just off a date and time. You can still do that, obviously, if it makes sense. But if it's anything that's based on a location that you want to be reminded when you get home, when you get to a store, when you get to the office, whatever, put in that geographic location. And to me, that's huge. So,
Yep. No, I use this all the time.
mhm.
And I'll tell you the main time that I use it, Alan, is when I happen to be driving and I just tell Miss S, right? Hey
Mhm.
S, remind me when this happens. So I'll say maybe remind me when I get to work to do this. And it knows where work is. So when I get geofencing anywhere close to my work office, then I'll get a buzz that says, "Oh, remember to do this." Okay. And by the way, I just double clicked on the thing that we just
Yep.
made, and
Mhm.
it says now you can choose whether it's arriving or leaving
Yep.
Home Depot or Ace Hardware. So, which I
Obviously,
think is great. Yep.
that could be important too. If you want to be
Yep.
reminded of something when you leave a destination,
Yep.
you get in your car, you drive away from it, then it notifies you. You can specify that as well.
Yep. And the one about leaving, I do quite often as well, but I do it. And the time I find I'm doing that a lot is when I'm at work. And I'll
Hmm.
say, "Hey, remind me when I leave work to stop by the store.
Yep,
Remind me when I leave work to go drop off the this letter."
that's
And
right.
then that knows to ping me because I don't know. You're right. I don't have any idea what time I'm going to leave work. Right. I'd like to say remind me at 5 o'clock, but I'm not leaving at 5 o'clock all the time. So it's much better to say, tell me when I get to this spot or tell
Yeah.
me. Now, the other one, Alan, and I actually had not used this before because I rarely ever use it from typing. I'll speak to it and do that through my phone. But I noticed here that if I say, let's say location, um, and there's two options here, one that's getting in my car or
Oh
getting
yeah.
out of my
Hmm.
car. And I've
Hmm.
never used that before. So to say, instead of
Yeah.
saying when I get to work, I could say, when I get in my car, next remind me to do this. And that way it's not waiting until I drive out of a parking lot. It's actually the moment that my Bluetooth turns on, and says, hey, I'm
Yeah.
connected to your car. So remind you to do this.
That's kind of the caveat is it needs to be where your phone is set to
Right.
connect to your car once you get in there.
Yeah.
Or especially if you have CarPlay and you connect your phone up to it, that'll be its designation as well. You're right.
Yeah.
I've used it a couple of times. I haven't found it to be 100% reliable because not every time I get in my car do I automatically have it connected to Bluetooth. So I don't rely on that as much, but it is a nice option if it used it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
All right.
So
So
that's
that's
my
good.
efficiency tip. Brian, what do
Very
you have?
nice. Well, so I'm going to be a little different here in that I'm not going to show you an Apple built-in feature. This is an app that I purchased, but it's an app that I purchased for a very specific reason. And I've gone through a couple of them. And in terms of efficiency for me, this is a game changer, which is a copy and paste kind of memory sort of application. So, for example, I copy something from an email, want to paste it into another email to send the same email. And then I want to send that same thing again to someone else, but I go back in and I'm copying an address and go, paste the
Yeah.
address in. And now all of a sudden I can't get back to what I copied before. So I have to go back and copy it again. So a copy and paste manager or a clipboard manager is a invaluable thing for me. And I've gone through a couple of them. One was called Copied, I think was the application. I'm actually on a new one now, and I wanted to show this to you, Alan, because even though this normally would be probably a bits, because it is efficiency, I'm going to show it, and it's called Copyless,
Okay.
Copyless 2. right? And so I pulled that up, and it actually is a window which has all the things that I've copied recently, and
Mm,
will list out about 100 of them. I think if you buy it, or if you're free, I think it'll, I don't know, it'll do maybe 20. If you do the paid version, it goes up to 1,000 or something like that. So it'll
wow.
remember everything that you've done. I'm not paying for it because I don't mind if it deletes something that's 20
Yeah.
20 times back. I only need the last 5 or 6
You're using it for
usually,
more
right?
real-time things you're working on right
Real time.
now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
real time. So let me show you really quickly how this would work. And another really cool part of this. So I'm just going to pull up a note, Alan, and let's just say I'm doing a new note. Um, so all right. So I'm typing a note here, and I'm just going to, let's say Alan should never drink water again.
Done.
All right. Okay. So obviously, as I would normally, I'm going to highlight that text, click copy, and take a look what happens in the top right of my screen. Oh, actually, maybe it doesn't do it when the window's open. Actually, let me minimize this window. Let me do it again. I click copy right now. And of course, it's not doing it.
Well, maybe you need to quit that actual window and like close it out.
Oh, that's quite possibly. Well, what I will say is the window itself, you'll notice it did copy it, right? And it's got it.
Yeah,
Every time I copy it, it's putting it in the list,
sure.
right? So let me get rid of that and see if that does it. Oh, maybe because I restarted earlier. But here's the cool part, and I didn't realize this was going to happen. But when I have it running appropriately, and it could be because we're sharing screens right now. Actually, I think that's it. I don't think the
Could be,
notifications
yeah.
are going to work. There's a notification that pops up every time I copy something. There's a notification that comes in the top right that says you just copied this text, and it just is a little reminder when I copy. It's like, oh, good, it did copy it. I don't have to click it again. It absolutely
Okay.
copied it, right? And then wherever I go, I can paste. Now, Alan, if I come back to this document, wherever my cursor is, I'm going to just pull that window up again. So if I have this window, and let's say that it's something that I copied earlier, much earlier. Let's say I have this is a link that I have. I can just double click
Mhm.
on the link, and it pops it right into wherever my cursor
Okay,
was,
good.
whatever document I'm working on. So, oh no, I want this as well. Okay, I want to go down, and let's say that it's something that is a little bit more formatted. Um, well, that's just a link. Let's see if I can get something that has a little bit more formatting to it, which I don't know if I have on here.
Well, while you're
So
doing that,
it's
I've got two
go ahead.
questions. Yeah, I've
Sure.
got two questions. Um, if you got the free version, which only gives you
Yep.
20,
Yep.
is there any way to kind of lock in a couple of them and say, look, I want these to be perpetual, that
I
I
think
want these to
so.
always be kept, even if I've copied more than 20 things lately, and it's building that list. But if there are three of those items, for example, I say I always want these three to be in my
Yeah.
list of 20. I'm curious about that.
Well, so I just for on that notice, I haven't done this before, but there is a favorites
Okay.
star on each
All
one that
right.
you can favorite
So
it. So
maybe you
now it
star it.
created a new column, and I would
If you,
assume that favorite's going to stick around if I keep copying. I don't know for
I would
sure.
hope so. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
important because even though, yes, most of the work I would do, I would be copying things recently
Yep.
and recalling them. But there's, for example, a couple of form emails that I have to send out sometimes that basically are the same information over and over again. And what I do now is I pretty much have a email draft that I already have the text in. I pull up that draft, copy it, and then paste it into a new email. If I could pull that up from this list and just have it populate the entire email for me, and I could
Yeah.
keep that perpetual and always have that available to me, that's really cool. Um,
Yep.
Second question is there a way, if you have that list, and let's say you do have the paid version with 1,000 of these things,
Hmm.
is there a way to search them quickly, either
Yeah.
keystrokes or some other way to find them? Will I have to
Right.
scroll down the list?
Right down at the bottom of the screen, there's a search
Okay,
box, and
cool,
I have
awesome,
not used it before. Let's just say Alan. Right. Yeah. So then it's going to search for all of
perfect.
the things that have Alan in it.
That's
Yep.
what I need.
So like if you've got the paid version, which let me just check and see, the paid version, lifetime free update for $7. So you are $7
Wow.
one time, and you get
One
this.
time, $7, and you have
Yep.
that really huge number of
Yeah.
things you can copy. Plus, there's probably some other benefits to getting
Well, it
up.
says sync across iCloud. Now, here's the part that I want to make sure people know about, which is kind of nice. So you could sync across your iCloud, which means that I think other devices should then be able to use it. However, here's the cool part, right? Is still anytime you're copying, I could go over to my phone if I copied something and click paste, and it pastes whatever I copied on my Mac already, right? So that's not
Okay.
across iCloud. That's because my devices are on the same
Well, that's huge
you know,
too.
we're logged in, which is fantastic. So when I copy here, I come over to my phone, click paste, and it's pasting whatever I just copied from my computer. So, and I do not have an app. I do not have this copyless app on my phone. That is
But it only does
because,
that with the most recent
yeah, I
things you
think
copy.
that's just because copy and paste does it on yours too, Alan. Like you would do it right now, as long as you're logged into both of your
Yeah.
machines,
Hmm.
you could do that. So what I don't know, let's see, I don't know if there's um, well, so here's the other thing, right? You can go back to this window, do a search, and then instead of double clicking to put it in place, you just go and tell it to copy again, right in the top left, copy again. It's ready to be pasted, and now it should show up on your
Yeah.
phone as well.
No,
So there's
look, I
ways
can.
around it.
There's a project I've got to work on tomorrow, Brian, that I could actually probably use this. It would save me so much time. So I
You
may be trying
download
to
the
do
free
that pretty
version.
quick.
Like I said, I have
Yeah.
not gone past the free version because, like I said, I keep copying and pasting, and I've been using this for a couple weeks. And sure, the whatever 20, let me just see, Alan, how many are here. So I'm going to get rid of your search. Uh, well, gosh,
Looks like more than
I don't
20.
know. It looks like 50, maybe. I'm
Yeah. I
guessing
mean,
it's
that's
probably
plenty.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I've been toying with the idea of whether I should get into a clipboard manager of some sort. I've never really felt the need for it in the past, but there's been enough times in even the last few months, where I've had to find myself constantly digging up older emails or drafts and kind of creating new versions of them. It would be so nice to have them stored somewhere quickly that I could just type a few characters, find it, and click it, and it pastes it right in. So
yeah.
it's good. It's very good.
Yeah, so there's also a quick look here, which is really nice. You just do the quick look to
Oh,
try to
oh,
figure
that's
out
great.
what it looks
Yeah, yeah,
like.
yeah. Right. To make
Um,
sure you're pasting the right things before you do.
but this is also, yeah, this is also where I wanted to show you there. I mean, it's going to, this by the way is white text,
Right.
but it does it by plain or real text, right? So you can convert everything to plain text if you want. You can also it'll
Mm.
maintain the formatted version and paste it in. So I've just it's been great. I feel like I have to have one of these copy or clipboard managers because the number of times that I'm pasting into an email the same message, but then I have to go and copy and paste the address in there from another source, and then I'm having to go back and forth with the same message again is just is maddening. So to
Yeah.
have this up as a manager, double click it, it pops in the text, double click, pops in the address, and you're good to go.
Nice.
So
I
that's
love
my
it.
efficiency tip
All right. And the
for
name of that
today.
app was what again?
This was copy less,
Copy
all one
less.
word, and then two. I think it's their version 2 of this. Yeah,
Copyless.
copy less two.
COPYLESS. I would put
LESS.
it up on the screen, but I don't think I can do that on my iPad.
Yeah, let's not push our luck. So
Okay. So a couple of
cool.
efficiency tips. What yours is, a nice little suggestion as well. But I think in general, the efficiency tip there is that there are clipboard managers available,
Yes.
some great apps that if you find yourself copying and pasting the same thing on multiple basis, or you're constantly having to look through your files to find something that you've used before and you just want to paste it into something different, use a clipboard manager. It saves you a lot of time. You can organize them, keep them at your fingertips. It's great.
And
Like if
why Mac doesn't have this built in, I have no idea.
it
I
seems like it
mean,
should be.
they have iCloud. iCloud should be able to store, put across your devices. There should be a way. If they're worried about security, I could see that, right? You copy a lot of things and you don't realize that the next person is going to have access to it. Well, make it fingerprint enabled, to show
I
your old
mean,
ones, or
if
you
it's
know,
all tied to iCloud, I mean, you're already sharing notes and
here. That's
reminders and
true.
all that
That's
with
true.
iCloud. So, I mean, what's the difference here, really?
Yeah, I don't know why they don't do it,
I
but
don't either.
it's
But us
invaluable.
saying that now, probably in the next version of the OS, it'll be there.
I
And
hope
right
so.
after I pay my $7 for it, they'll know. Um, that's
Yeah.
just kind of the day I'm having. So, um, real quick, just not to go back to news for a second, but just as a reminder, they did announce that The latest Mac operating system, Ventura, will be available on October 24th, which I believe is next Tuesday.
Yeah.
From the time we record this. And also 16.1, iOS 16.1 for iPhone, and iOS 16 or iPad OS 16 for the iPad all come out on that same day. So it's going to be a big day for updates. They're supposed to be rolling out Stage Manager, which is the thing, Brian, we were trying to recall name of, but another kind of way to interact with your iPad or Mac. I think it may be worth it for us to try to play with that when it comes out and just see if it's anything worth using or not, because there have been some mixed reviews of it in the developer betas and other people's feedback on it. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit when it comes out, and we can probably do a little quick synopsis of the latest operating system for the Mac, because that is a true whole nother version coming out. The iOS version is a incremental update, but they're adding in some of the features they didn't have before. Most notably for me, the iCloud family photo libraries is going to be added with 16.1 for the phone. So it'll be a good day of updates. We'll probably have a couple of episodes worth of stuff we could talk about after that comes out. So,
and Alan, just real quick, it's center stage. That's the feature.
Just the camera looking down and
no. So this is when
it keeps you centered.
Right. The iPad itself has a very wide range, but it only allows. So if I move my head, it's going to follow me because I'm still within the wide range of the iPad.
Center stage.
The iPad's center stage. So I think that's really cool too.
Stage Manager is the new feature we'll be exploring when it comes out here next week. So,
okay. Awesome.
Good deal,
all right. Well, Alan, I hope you drink a lot after we're done here, and I hope that this has at least allowed you to. Well, more, because I know what's going to happen in a second is you're going to turn around and see that computer that is drying out, and I know that's not going to make you very happy. So,
fingers crossed, everybody.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Oh, brother. Yeah, I hate it for you, man. But I have a good feeling it's going to work out fine, though. It's going to pop back on.
Here real quick, because I did find out I can actually do some captions. Info at themesh.tv. If you've got questions, you want to talk to us, ask us anything about this episode or future episodes. And brothers-n-tech.com is the website that it's probably not up to date. I would have been using my Mac to update it, but not doing that tonight. So
there's your excuse. Okay.
It'll be updated soon.
Nice.
But that's where we keep a lot of our archived episodes and some other notes up there as well.
Awesome.
I think we have a page of our bits as well up there. So if you want to go back and see some of our suggestions from some older episodes, we keep an archive of a few of the episodes up there. So you can see a list of some of those suggestions of apps or websites in the past. So.
And I think we'll start documenting our bytes now. So we got bits and bytes that I think will be our kind of what we focus on. So that's great.
Okay. Well, I'm
all right, brother.
See where I am. So.
Good luck.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and let's see if I can actually play this out. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to y'all next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.